welcome to Legally Speaking. With me, Tarun Nangia. Cryptocurrency is a very interesting topic for all of us and much of the viewers who see this program. 7 lakh crore rupees estimated has flown into this asset class. Yesterday, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman made statements in Parliament about the issue of cryptocurrency. Misleading ads also figured in that discussion because about 50 crore rupees was spent by crypto companies in the last T20 World Cup advertising their cryptos, which means that this is a subject that can't be, in a sense, left undiscussed. Of course, she spoke about regulation, but she left it that when the bill is presented, when the cabinet passes the bill and is presented before Parliament, there can be a much wider discussion. But she said that the Directorate of Enforcement is also investigating frauds, 8 cases of fraud involving cryptos. All of this and more is a subject of today's discussion, including what Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Finance Minister, said in Parliament. I have a very eminent panel to discuss this issue with me. May I introduce you, Ma'am Aruna Sharma. As you all know, Ma'am has been a member of RBI, which is a Reserve Bank of India's Committee on Digitization. She will share her experience and what can we look forward from the government in future on regulation of cryptos. Secondly, I have with me Vaibhav Kakkad. He is Head of Regulatory Practice at Saraf and Partners, one of India's leading law firms. I have with me Advocate Abhimanyu Bhandari, a well-known name. He has earlier worked in New York. He's passed many years he spent in India, where now he's practicing at the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court of India. He also is a door tenant at the 4 Pump Court in United Kingdom in London. I welcome my panel today, and may I request Ma'am Aruna Sharma to lay the ground for today's discussion. Ma'am, may you introduce the issue and also lay the ground at what happened in Parliament yesterday and where are we headed?
Sure. I think yesterday in the Parliament, much of the mist has been removed because there were too much of jumping to conclusion on the titling of the bill which was proposed to be placed in the Parliament. And it was a copy-paste job of what has happened in the previous session of the Parliament, when it was thought of, last budget session rather of the Parliament, when it was thought to be introduced. And the FM made it very, very clear that much water has flown since then and the whole thing is getting rewritten. So that is point one. And you did make a mention about the advertisement. And she did highlight that we already have advertisement regulatory body, which has norms whether you are misinforming people or offending advertisements are coming or something which is non-acceptable kinds. Then there is an action and the removal of the advertisements. So she has made a mention whether that will be sufficient or that will need to be tweaked further to ensure that no misleading advertisements come. Having said that, the most important thing is that the two things are separated. That the digital currency bill, which will be coming to enable RBI to work upon a digital currency, will be coming forward. And digital currency is something which is backed by gold, which is backed by your deposit, which is backed by the monetary strength of the country. And that will be something similar to digital payments we do, where we don't have a physical currency in hand, but it will have an add-on that overseas you can sort of do it, you can trade it with dollar, maybe it will make INR much more stronger, and it will enable tokenization of it. On the other hand is crypto. And this is what, right from the beginning, I had been arguing about it, and I'm very happy that now everybody has accepted that cryptocurrency is a wrong word to be used. We have to use only crypto. And crypto will be treated like any other investment portfolio that any investor will have. So in the sense, what FM has very clearly said, that it may be 2 different bills that is possible to come, because a lot of nuances will have to be settled in the crypto bill, which may not become a part of the RBI bill, or which may be a section in the RBI Amendment Act that is being talked about for digital currency. So crypto regularization is a must, because if you look at the investment part of it, and you did make a mention of some of the fraud cases. One fraud case I would like to flag at the beginning itself, where they kept the data not in the blockchain, but in a data file. Now that is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. So what is very important in the regulation is, one, the correct kind of information to people that this is an investment, a speculative investment. So like in digital currency of RBI, my 100 rupees will remain 100 rupees. It will not become 99 or neither 150. Whereas crypto as an investment can become 200 or 50 or zero. Right. So with that knowledge has to come up with informed decision. Anybody who wants to invest can invest. Second thing is, many of the crypto on their own are now advertising that they follow KYC norms, they follow AML norms, they follow other cross-checking norms, and they will be sticking to blockchain. So all these nuances will have to be worked out in the regulatory bill for the crypto. So another thing which has become very clear, that ban is not now in the agenda. The agenda is that how we can bring it more informed and how we can build up these nuances so that the people are not taken for a ride. And the last comment I would like to make here is that the expectation of the people that there will be a protection ring provided by the government to the investors, I don't think so. That's my personal opinion, because it is, even a bank deposit or an FD is, you are guaranteed only for 5 lakhs of rupees. And as far as your security investments are concerned, or your speculative investment, whether even in the safer haven of mutual funds or shares, there is no government guarantee. It is with a knowledge you are entering that your money may multiply or you may be doomed, right? So exactly the same way it will work. But in crypto, because there is no asset, so maybe a little ring fencing or asking the cryptos to come up with an insurance part of it, maybe with 1 rupee contribution of every transaction or every 100 rupees or whatever it is, can be thought of. Because I'm just talking this idea of the first time I'm floating this idea that is the only extent one can walk for a protection for the investor, but not beyond it. And why it is of worry? Because it has moved to the hinterlands. Lots of women are investing. Lots of students are investing. The average age is 24, right? And average ticket size is 2,000 to 3,000 rupees. So that is how it is working. And let me tell you that crypto peer-to-peer lending is not something new. If the legal co-panelists, they will know there is something called Dabba Finance or committee where people put money, and anybody in need of money, you bid for the interest rates, you borrow that money. So non-legal backed, these kind of committees are very much existent in the lower strata of our society. Very, very popular. And maybe in a middle class and higher middle class, you call it a kitty party or whatever it is. So, but the operations are something similar, right? Now that thing is graduating to a digitized format.
You've made a...
Yes, ma'am. Which crosses all geographical boundaries and with unknown people. So in the sense, we will have to look at the trade, and I strongly feel that is the reason why crypto was suddenly adopted across the country, leading to such kind of a huge investment, what you are saying.
Point well taken, because ma'am, in my last show, one of the panelists highlighted that any peer-to-peer transaction without the RBI being informed can actually aid money laundering, because the government doesn't come to know it's between two people. So that is one risk that we run of money laundering that can happen through crypto. In fact, a lot of people say that actually a lot of money laundering has happened. But anyways, I'll leave this to the experts. Vaibhav, the income earned by the crypto exchanges and others are taxed under the head of business in the Income Tax Act. Where are we headed as far as the tax aspect of this is concerned?
I think much will, Tarun, depend upon which way we go on regulation versus ban. And that will drive the taxation considerations. I think as you know, Ms. Aruna has very clearly sort of articulated, and I 100% agree with her. I think there is, of course, a substantial shift in the approach of the government. Earlier, all the previous committee reports, the previous version of the bill, which talked of ban, much like the most talked about e-commerce sector, where the sector became too big for you to then prohibit FDI. So then you had to come up with a policy for marketplaces to facilitate what was already happening. What has happened here is, Tarun, that a lot of investments already gone into crypto. And, we are a little too late to the party. If you look at all the other emerging jurisdictions by now, almost most have a reasonably clear, decisive position on how they want to deal with crypto. We're a little late to the party. And I think that has meant that the government and regulators have had to now take into account the interest of the consumers. My answer might be a little long-winded one to your question, but I think the short point, therefore, is that I think government and Reserve Bank will certainly not cede away, their currency sovereignty. Ultimately, currency is also an effective, tool for stabilization of monetary policy, interest rates and things like those. Certainly in line with what other countries are doing, India would not cede away its currency sovereignty to any private organizations. So that sort of almost is almost a certainty. Then what that leaves you with is two options. One option is that you put a clear, complete, absolute ban. And I think an absolute ban, I don't think is the solution. I think we are a little too late for that. And quite frankly, if you look at historically, whatever asset class or whichever asset class you've sought to completely ban, you've actually ended up proliferating more illegal use of it and unchecked abuse of it. So the real solution, therefore, is to do something what similar to Singapore and Japan have done, is to find a middle path, to not allow this to be used as a currency, as a medium of exchange. It also will pave way for RBI to come up with its own digital currency backed by, as Madam Sharma said, backed by dollars or stable sort of gold, and bring that as a stable currency, very similar to what Facebook is proposing with their currency, which is Diem. But that's the direction we are heading. And I think crypto will get regulated just like any other asset class. And if that be the case, where it's regulated as an asset class, I think that will give the regulators the ability to start understanding this market. Quite frankly, hand on heart, if you were to ask the regulators informally, a lot of them are still struggling with it, and I wouldn't blame them. Most other jurisdictions as well, regulators are always grappling because these are technologies which are so quickly changing. You're seeing newer currencies every day. And so in that backdrop, I think it will also give the regulators a better understanding. You will have strong KYC and anti-money laundering laws, and it will give the avenue for the government to start taxing. I think the finance minister was asked this question yesterday about, what kind of taxation revenue have we, generated on account of cryptocurrency. And I don't think the government had the data yesterday. And I'm sure they would sort of look through that. So I think it will also give the avenue. You'll also have stronger rules on advertising. I think the amount of speculation that's happening in the currency, a lot of uneducated youth are getting impacted, a lot of scams are taking place. And I think it's important to bring some sort of a stability and some sort of a regulatory sphere within which this is operated.
Point well taken. I'll go to Advocate Abhimanyu Bhandari. Cryptos were introduced in India, or Indians started investing in this asset class in 2011. This was about 10 years ago. Now in 2021, we are contemplating to bring a bill to regulate this asset class. 7 lakh crores, as I said earlier, already invested in this asset. Many companies, many of them backed by Indians, also are into this business as of now. There are, I think, as many as 600 or more, in a sense, companies that run this crypto network. Do you think it is a humongous task before the government to put it in a bill in this winter session itself? Do you think this will be easier said than done, Abhimanyu, from the legal point? And of course, there is the issue of money laundering. And you do many of these cases, so you may have an idea of what's the risk we run with this crypto asset class.
Thanks, Tarun. Tarun, I think we are raising a storm in a teacup. I don't think so that it's a currency. I think it's just a speculative investment asset class, like the other panelists have said. And you can't restrict people from holding an asset that they want to hold. How much will you regulate it at the end of the day? If you look at it, any exchange that sells crypto, allows you to trade in crypto, will definitely ask you for your KYC statements. KYC information. They will also have a statement generated periodically to show what kind of transactions you've done, whether you invested in the Dogecoin or whether you've invested in a Matic coin or whether you've invested in a Bitcoin. So at the end of the day, any regulator who has to tax you on your income or any organization which wants to, investigative organization which wants to say that there's been no abuse of this asset, can always get handled to that statement and see what you've done with it and tax you appropriately on that. So I think that concern is quite met if you ensure that the regulation is at the level of the exchanges which sell and trade in cryptocurrencies. If those are regulated, then I think a large number of this saying that the money is being laundered and money is evaporating or escaping from the tax guys will be contained. But yes, it is not a currency. And I don't think so that however we may talk about it, anybody would seriously see this as a currency. You know, one tweet from Tesla owner and suddenly it jumps by 20% and falls by 20%. So it's a risky investment, which young people like a lot because it's quick money very quickly and it's quick losses very quickly. So people are also aware, I think the young population, you know, are not that foolish also to think that, oh, this is just a one-way track. But yes, we can, of course, on a social platform, the government can create more awareness of the risks of investing in crypto. But banning crypto would, I think, be a very undemocratic thing to do because youth of the entire world is now increasingly investing in this asset class, whether we like it or we don't like it. The youth necessarily don't want to invest in gold and keep it under the bed. They don't want to do that. You know, 3 generations before, people may like to do that, but now the youth don't. They want something digital. They want something on their iPhone and they want to show that they have money and that's what they want to do. So I think let's not talk about ban. Let's talk about appropriate regulation. And also let's not talk about over-regulation. So I hope whatever the bill is coming in whatever form it is coming in, it doesn't overkill it. Because if you overkill it, you're going to have this whole secondary market come up, which will create a bigger mess. So I think the balance should be to ensure that, look, if people are making huge amounts of money, then they should pay for it. I mean, I want to ask you something, Tarun. I want to ask the panelists here. Why is this whole FNO business that we see on the stock exchange, why that is not riskier? You know, have you seen the fluctuation in the last week in the stock market? I mean, why do you want to blame the cryptocurrency? So yes, now just like, you know, me punting on, let's say, shares of Tata Steel is speculative, in the same way punting on Bitcoin is speculative. So I don't see that, you know, we should make a real storm out of it. We should accept it because now, as the other panelists have said, and as you've said, it's been in our system for many years. So let's regularize it. However, there's one thing that we should consider, and that is, I think, from what I read in the papers, and, you know, when I meet the young of our country, I mean, I've never invested in a cryptocurrency, I'll tell you frankly. But when I talk to people who are 10 years younger to me, 11 years younger to me, they tell me everybody has cryptocurrency, maybe in small amounts, maybe in big amounts. So I think what we could do is bring a bill where we could ask them to voluntarily disclose their cryptocurrency holding, like we've done it with income tax laws so many times in our country, you know, where we got these voluntary disclosure schemes. We got the Black Money Act where we allowed people to disclose, pay some taxes. So people who have cryptocurrency, which is not on a secondary market, not on the official market, should be able to disclose it, pay their taxes for once and for all. And then we make it very clear and simple that, look, you do it through certain exchanges. We regulate those exchanges and we let life go on. I don't see why money laundering should be an issue in cryptocurrency as much as money laundering is an issue in the whole parallel cash system that we run in our country. I mean, after demonetization, we thought that we would live in a world where there would be no cash. I'm sorry, I read an article the other day that there's now more cash than there was before demonetization in the system. So please, let's not kind of, you know, overthink this whole thing. It's not a currency, as Mrs. Sharma rightly said, and, you know, I totally agree with it. It's a speculative asset class. If you're foolish enough to hold it, good for you, good luck. You know, maybe I'm a fool for not holding any of it. So it's just treat it like that and just build the social awareness that this is highly speculative and one day you may be a millionaire, next day you might be negative equity. So I think we should leave it to that.
Tarun, just to add 2 quick points, if I may. I think one, totally agree with what Abhimanyu is saying. I think in the backdrop of some of the other previous Supreme Court judgments also, I think government also ought to have revisited their previous, so-called ban on cryptocurrency, because I don't think as an asset class, any ban would sustain in a court of law, because ultimately you have a constitutional right protected for property. And I think certainly crypto will fulfill all of those characteristics. So one, I think that's point number one. And point number two to sort of bear in mind is, I think there is one gaping hole, and I brought that out in your last show as well. Right now, the cross-border exchange controls from a FEMA perspective don't speak of the crypto restrictions. And a lot of cross-border flows is happening. China lost $80 billion last year because transactions happened through crypto, which ought to be regulated at a FEMA level or their parallel legislation in their jurisdiction. India, therefore, needs to also synchronize their FEMA rules with crypto because a lot of cross-border transactions are happening. I said it in your last show. Fun fact, liberalized remittance scheme does not even allow Indians to buy crypto, but people are buying crypto all the time using that LRS scheme. So I think there's not enough enforcement, and RBI ought to sort of also clear the air from a cross-border capital control and cross-border flows.
Tarun, I'll add to that. I think that's a very important point that Vaibhav has raised. And I think this is what I was trying to say. So I think RBI should allow people to use their LRS to buy crypto, because RBI allows every Indian to go and splurge $250,000 per year abroad. So they could allow that, but to ensure that they don't do more than that, they should say that any splurging on crypto should be through a recognized exchange, and that exchange takes your KYC and maintains and generates a statement, so that at the end of the year, whether it's RBI, whether it's the income tax guy, they can both get handled to it and they can see how much you've spent and how much you've lost on that and tax you appropriately, and also see that you haven't reached your LRS quota that you're allowed to. So I think if these things are just done, I think it will be simplified. So I think we should just stop talking about ban. However, Vaibhav has raised an issue that, you can't ban it. I am doubtful, if you want to ban something, you can always say that this is an asset class which we don't want people to own. So we are going to ban it. For example, we don't want people to have deer skin in their house. So, as much as money I may have, I can't go to the shop out there. I can't go and buy crocodile leather, deer skin and keep it in my house, because that's illegal. So they could do the same thing with cryptocurrency, but I think they should not do that. And I think this whole talk and the narrative on ban should go. I think it's not even there. And I think appropriate regulation can be done in the manner that I have delineated.
Here I'd just like to add on two small points. The Supreme Court did not agree to the ban, and therefore ban was withdrawn because they took the constitutional proportionality clause, and they said what you anticipate as a fear or you apprehend of misuse, the ban is disproportionate to that, and that was the reason, and that stands settled as far as India is concerned. And second thing, what you are talking about, the exchange or the foreign, now you are allowed to invest in the shares in the exchanges which are not in India. So that has been opened up. So you can buy your shares in New York Stock Exchange or UK Stock Exchange or wherever it is, right? So that is permitted. So exactly a same parallel will come the moment we declare it as an asset class. And one loud thought I'm having, I'm still not clear on that issue, we may have a crypto exchange, so that in case you are sort of exchanging it across India geographical boundary, there will be a trail for it. So in the sense, it is one of the issue which happened is that with the Indian crypto exchange, it was purchased by a foreign crypto exchange, and from there it got lost somewhere in the chain. That will not happen in case we have it. Just a loud thought at this moment of time. But these are the issues now we have to debate very clearly after FM's statement that ban is out. It is going to be treated as an asset, as the indications are, till an official statement comes. What are the checkpoints or which needs to be there in the regulation? And I totally agree to what both of you said, that there should not be over-regulation. And you cannot control asset class. If I want to sink my money, I can sink my money.
Ma'am, one final comment from you. So are we clearly making a distinction between central bank digital currency, which will not fluctuate in value, and crypto? Because there is a lot of confusion among viewers on that.
Yes, clear-cut distinction on it. And therefore, I request everybody not to ever use the word currency along with crypto. Just call crypto. It is only El Salvador, the only country in the world, which has given the digital currency status to crypto. Otherwise, no country across the globe has given. And India's stand is very clear. It will never, never, never give the legal tender status to crypto. Right. Okay. So when that stand is very clear, which FM also reiterated very clearly. So I think in our talks and vocabulary also, we must remove the word currency from crypto. Maybe tomorrow, if officially you say it is an asset, then you can call it a crypto asset. Otherwise, crypto is good enough.
Point well taken. Now
currency is different. Yes.
We wait for the bill to be passed by the cabinet, because We are really not sure whether this is happening by December 23rd when our current parliament session ends. Maybe this will go to the next parliament session. Till then, all the crypto investments of at least 7 lakh crore as we speak today are in the gray area.
Tarun, it could also go to the JPC.
Yes.
Bear that in mind.
It will go.
If it goes to the JPC, then it may take a few more months also.
Yes,
so this may take up to a year. So we are not at the end of it. We'll revisit this issue in a couple of months to see where are we headed. We hope that people don't lose money by then, because if there is a big loss, then it has an impact on policy making in India. Because as ma'am said, a lot of youngsters have put in money. But from what I get to speak to people, a lot of elders have put in large amounts of money. That also is something which is yet to come out, because there are no big losses as yet. That news hasn't come out. But we'll wait and watch for that one. May I thank Ma'am Aruna Sharma, Abhimanyu Bhandari, Vaibhav Kakkad for sparing time and joining us on this very important discussion today. We look forward to what our Finance Minister, Ma'am Nirmala Sitharaman, would say in future on this, and then we'll discuss it. Thank you so much, viewers.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.